Alpha book, you are in the right place at the right time to learn how to write your book. Hi, I'm Joyce Class, and welcome to the Write Hour, nonfiction tips from the Write Coach team. We are so glad you joined us today. Hello, hello. Welcome, Elizabeth. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm good. I'm trying to I'm multitasking, so I'm trying to share from my phone while listening to you. It's going pretty well. Go ahead.
Good. I need to do the same thing. And while we're doing this, everybody, if you have any questions while we're going through this, because this is going to be a fun session with Elizabeth about launching, because I think every writer has this question: how do you launch a book, And so I am glad you're here and you can answer these questions for all of us.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and she's done this. So Elizabeth is a mother of 5, but she's also birthed 5 books as well. And so she has a lot of experience in this, and she's going to share it. And this is what she helps people do, right? And this is how you help some of your clients, is launching
Part of it,
yeah. So we have somebody here with some great experience that's going to share her words of wisdom with us. So tell us a little bit about you personally, and then about your journey to writing, and that brought you to here today.
So like you said, I'm an author of 5 books and a mom of 5. Apparently 5 is my favorite number. Also 13, which makes me a little bit strange because that's not usually people's favorite number, but and I am the founder of Publish a Profitable Book, which is where I help people write, publish, and launch impactful books. My publishing house, Finn Phyllis Press, has been around since 2002. It was created just for me, which is sort of part of my writing journey. Back when I wrote my very first book in 2001, 2002, and I couldn't get anybody in New York to take it on. So I just thought I'll do it myself. And so I created this publishing house to do just that, right? To just be an indie publisher. And then it just sort of grew from there. It was supposed to be one book, one and done, right? And somehow I ended up with 5 and 5 kids, which was supposed to be 2. We were supposed to have 2 kids, but from 1 to 3 because we had twins, and then I was all screwed up. So,
oh, funny.
Yeah.
So fun. So what got you interested in writing? Did you always know, or did it just kind of happen?
Yeah, both. So I've always loved writing conceptually, and I was in journalism in high school, and I've always written. I remember starting to write my first book when I was 6. I sat down at the kitchen table and I had like lined notebook paper and a pencil, and I started at chapter 6 because who wants to start at chapter 1? Like, that is too daunting. So I started chapter 6, and then I realized I couldn't write the whole book in a day. So I quit. And this would be a pattern that would follow me for the next however many decades of my life. If I couldn't get it accomplished in an hour, it was like out the window. So perseverance has not always been, and consistency and commitment has not always been my thing. But the thing is, I had imposter syndrome for a long time because I don't have my undergraduate degree is in Japanese. It's not in English. It's not in literature. It's not in fine writing. I don't have a master's of MFA from Iowa writers, none of that. And so I didn't really think I was positioning myself to be a writer. And then circumstances presented themselves, which the circumstances were that I found out I was expecting twins. And I went to the bookstore just after this ultrasound and bought everything they had, which wasn't a lot, but it was a few things. And every book that I got my hands on, this was pre-Amazon, all of that. Every book I got my hands on basically said, your life is over. Like just, we're done. And I thought, that's so sad, because I had read The Girlfriend's Guide by Vicky Iovine when I was expecting my daughter. And I loved it. Like, I loved that it was funny, but it also gave actual tips. And I felt like it was a great, and I was looking for that for moms of twins, and I couldn't find it. So I guess out of just a sense of desperation and needing some creativity in my life alongside, raising an almost 2-year-old and expecting twin. I just did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can imagine the chaos of 2-year-olds and twins. That was probably some tough times.
I don't even remember a lot of it.
Well, I think it's kind of survival of the fittest at that point.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Like, I'm just glad we're all still here,
Yeah, good. Yeah, I remember when my son was about 6 months old, I had hoped to have twins. I thought that'd be cool. And then when he started crawling, I was like, thank you, God. I'm too good to keep up with one. If I know. I don't know what I would do.
I know. So, it's an interesting, well, I wanted twins as well. And when they were 3-4 months old, I mean, really from day one, I thought, because I had my daughter first, and I wondered what was I thinking, complaining about the one, and how this had deprived me of sleep and a social, whatever it was. Because now we've got this. Right?
You tripled that.
They're amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, what are some major components of book launching? Because that's what we're talking about today. And like I said in the intro, this is something that most writers are intimidated by or scared about. Like, they love the writing book. Hey, we got this book and we're going to write.
Do they?
Well, most of them. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. And then they get to the end and they're like, oh, crap. Now I got to tell people about this, which is actually, if you wait till the end, you've waited too long, just FYI. But what are some major components of the book launch?
A big one is to back it up a little bit, it's important to remember that you don't really just have one book launch. Right. Now, of course, you're always going to have your first, which is the most daunting. But one thing I encourage people to remember is that you can relaunch a book. Yes. I have been relaunching my very first book now for 18 years, just over and over. I mean, it's had new editions and retitles and et cetera, but you can relaunch. So I encourage people to take the pressure off of themselves of feeling like, oh my God, I'll launch as soon as I can figure out how to perfectly launch. Because if I screw it up, there's no turning back. There's no second chance. That's not true. One of the major components is intention. So knowing what is this particular launch intended to do? And if it's your first launch, meaning the first launch of a particular book, the goal is likely to attract as many of your ideal readers and get the word out and yes, sell books and, generate opportunities with your ideal readers, which is not everyone.
Right. We talk about that a lot in the Write My Book Bootcamp, that everyone may benefit from your book, but that doesn't mean you write to everyone or that it's for everyone. Exactly. So what's another one, a major component?
A timeline. To have a schedule. Yes. It's otherwise, honestly, you'll go crazy and it will feel like it's just all over the place. I often say, if your launch day feels super anticlimactic, you've done it correctly. Because if you've set everything up ahead of time, all your emails, all your social media posts, your launch team, any strategy that you're employing to get the word out over the first 12 days, that's the period of time. You just watch it go. At that point, you just watch it go and you finesse it a little as necessary based on the data and what you're seeing. But the key components are in place. So you have to have that structure and that timeline ready to go. Those are the two biggest components. The third really, which is shortly thereafter, is, you've already mentioned it a little bit. Don't try to figure this out 3 days before the book becomes available.
Yes. Don't wait is the key there. Yeah. And that's something that I've talked a lot about with other people and in the Write My Book Bootcamp. It is important. Okay. If you are writing a book and you are spending all this time, sometimes 6 months, a year writing a book, don't wait to start promoting and growing your platform. All of that takes time. But then once you get some momentum going, then you have that momentum going for you, not against you, because you waited. Now, if you decide to wait, my whole big thing is then plan 6 to 9 months to work on this, to market, to launch, to grow.
Just because your book is available for sale on, say, Amazon does not mean that this is one of the misconceptions. Like the minute I hit publish and it's available, oh my God, everyone's going to go. No one will know. I promise you, no one will even know it's there unless you tell people, and tell people often.
Right.
So you can technically have it available on October 1st and not even start your launch until, November 1st or December.
Right.
If that happens, don't panic is really.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, what are some things that writers need to do before they launch? So they're working up to this. Do you suggest obviously setting a launch date and then kind of working your backwards with your timeline? Sorry, I don't know why my dog.
Oh, mine will start. It's fine. We'll have a conversation with each other. It'll be great. So yes. So I reverse engineer it because that's what works best for me. So I set the launch date, and I actually have a spreadsheet where you input your launch date and it calculates out every other date. So you input one date, and then it'll tell you, send this email on this date, send this email on this date, do this promo on this date, all these things, because that's the part that gets really overwhelming for people.
Yes. And what was that? I'm sorry, I missed that. Dealing with crazy girl here.
Crazy. No, I have a spreadsheet that breaks all that out, right? All the timeline. But I tell people to start talking about your book whenever. Like it's never too early to start talking about your book. The key, which is something you just said, is build your platform.
Right.
So if you're talking about your book, but you don't have any way to capture people's names or email addresses so that you can actually let them know when the book is released, it's not the end of the world, but you're missing an opportunity. So if there's a way that you can offer them each time you talk about it, the first chapter for free, or if you're writing a cookbook, you offer them a recipe for free, something that will compel them to get onto your email list, so that when you do actually launch, you have that platform to actually market to. It's a day. It's Tuesday. Yes.
I wasn't muted, was I?
Oh, it's fine. I think you were okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. I'll talk really loudly like this. But another thing that's really important is to think about who your launch team is.
Yes.
And I advocate for a formal launch team. I do, because I think it's effective. Well, I know it's effective to have them organized and to be able to tell them exactly what to do and be very strategic about who's on that launch team. Here's the thing. Do not assume that just because somebody has a massive, this is where vanity metrics can shoot you in the foot. If someone has a massive social media following, I can't tell you the number of times people have said to me, well, I want to get Gary Vaynerchuk to promote my book, to be on my launch team, or, whatever. And my thing is, okay, beyond the obvious challenges involved in getting Gary Vaynerchuk on your launch team, you've written a book about gardening. And Gary teaches people there's an incongruency with your audiences. So you want to make sure, it doesn't matter if I've never heard of, don't worry about the big names.
Right.
Worry about the known names or the people who have an audience or traction in that space.
Right. I mean, because here's the thing, even if they have a little audience, that's people most likely that you don't know. And I mean, that could be 1,500, 2,000 people, 5,000 people.
It could be 10 people.
Yeah. It could be, 10 to 5,000, whatever. That you don't know that could be interested in your book.
Or you could know someone.
Exactly.
I mean, you never know who will just be driving down the road and they'll say, oh my gosh, I heard you. I was listening to this podcast today and I heard about this new book that's come out. And this is exactly what you were telling me the other week that you really need. Go check it out. that's the part that you have to let go. Like there's a fine line between having a solid strategy and then letting it do its thing.
Right. And what do you suggest with this launch team? Do you have somebody that's helping you with this, or do you do this, the launch team?
Me personally, for my own books, or for my clients' books?
Either way.
I do it all for myself, and my clients do it for themselves. I mean, I guess technically, if you have a VA, or yes, you can hire Tim Grawl for $50,000 to $80,000, right, to help you. That's an option, is to hire someone in like that. But more often than not, what I see, and he's great, by the way, but more often than not, what I see is just having someone help you with the organization of it, because it feels overwhelming, right? So like I put my whole launch team in a Facebook group. I have an email list just for my launch team. I'm communicating with them in whatever way works best for them. Right. And it's also so important that you're appreciative of your launch team.
Yes.
Because they will thrive off of two things. One, you telling them what to say. They don't have time to go out, and they don't have time or desire.
Right. And most of them wouldn't know what to say. I mean, that's
exactly.
You just, you put it together, and all they have to do is copy, paste,
all
share.
They have to, yep. All they have to do is hit share. That's all they can edit the words if they want to make it sound a little bit more like them, or not, up to them. So that's the first thing, is give them the stuff. But the second thing is appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, it's so rare still that people are so touched by it when they actually receive it, they'll do more. Which isn't the reason you give it to them, by the way. It's just a natural result of it.
Right. Wow. Well, how long does it take to prepare for a launch?
The best answer ever. It depends. I tell people to plan for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Is a planning period. Now, occasionally I will have someone come to me who says, the book is coming out in 4 weeks. What do I do? And I say, look, you can compact it. It's just going to be a little more of a bit crazier of 4 weeks than it would have been had you started previously. The 12 weeks is kind of more, if you just want to piece a little bit in here and there. I mean, you can do it all in 3 days if you want to not sleep for 3 days. You just follow the steps and do what you need to do. But I typically recommend that people start really talking about and pushing and building their list 6 to 8 weeks minimum before they launch, even if they're not talking about the book, because there's kind of a fine line between like, oh my God, she's been talking about this for 1.5 years. When is this going to launch already? Right. And talking about the subject matter. So if you're a chef, or if you're a nutrition expert, or if you're writing about how to build a business, talk about the content and the concept. Get yourself out there as a person with the experience and the authority that your audience is looking for. And then start mentioning the book about 6 weeks before it's due to come out.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, what mistakes do you see authors making as they launch their books? Some we've already talked about. Right.
The biggest one, and I always get, well, I don't always get, but this isn't well received usually, is because it's what everyone's hoping for, is that everyone's friends and family are just going to make this thing a bestseller in 5 hours. So it's this notion of, I have so many people who want to buy this book. And I'm sure you hear this all the time too, Joyce. It's like everyone's messaging me and they want to know when they can order it, and But then it launches, and then they call me back and they say, I'm so confused. I've sold 3 books.
Right.
And so it's about setting your expectations, and it's about not taking those things personally. You have to keep reminding people that you're there, not stalking them or driving them crazy, but you have to keep reminding them that you can be of service.
Right. Well, and the other thing to remember here, your friends and family, that I've heard this before, they are not obligated to buy anything from you.
Correct.
Book, services, anything. Don't expect that. If they do, then it's icing on the cake because it may not be relevant to them.
Exactly. That's exactly
like
right.
you said, it's not personal. It's just that it's not relevant to their life or where they're at. And so you gotta keep that in mind. And it is hard because you do want your friends and family to be as excited as you are. But if it's not their thing, or not, or maybe they're not readers, whatever may be the case, because I got lots of people like that in my life. They don't read books,
or they'll say, well, is it out on audio yet? I only listen to audiobooks. Well, just give me 4 months and it will be right. So
I'll have that for you.
just hold on.
Let me pop that right out there.
Right.
But is there anything else besides expectations and then you were telling you remind people?
I think impatience, which also would go with expectations. This is a long game. And regardless of where you are, at what level you sit as an author, whether you are already a bestseller, New York Times bestseller, Wall Street Journal, it doesn't matter. With each level comes a new set of expectations. So if your last book you sold 10,000 copies, maybe now this time you're expecting to sell 100,000. And so the ante is upped, and it's easy to get impatient when you don't reach those goals as quickly as you'd like to reach them.
Right.
So I think it's so important to remember that it is a long game, and building your audience is a long game. I hate the word game because it's not a game, but it's a process, and it requires consistency.
Well, you've got to be there. That's the key right there, is consistency. You've got to be consistent, but you've also got to look at the long haul. This, most people aren't doing a one and done book. And if you aren't, and you want to make this a career, and you want people to buy your next book, you've got to keep that in mind, that as your exposure grows, so will your sales. And the other thing that happened, like I know this happened to John Grisham, his first book did not do that well until his second book did well. And then everybody went back and said, well, the first book.
Right.
So you're going to keep that in mind, that it's a time thing. And sometimes that first one isn't the right time for it to explode. That second or third book, it might. And then they go and they buy all those other books because they're like, what else has she written?
Exactly.
Because they want more, and they just didn't know about you. And so it is, I do like that. Keep that in perspective. It is a long game. It is a journey.
And I mean, if we're being honest, everything is.
Yeah.
Right. Every business is, and you have to look at being an author as either a business or as part of your business. And so.
Right. I mean, even, I can't remember the exact story. Do you know J.K. Rowling? What was it? It was years before her Harry Potter was noticed.
Yeah.
So, and I want to say it was like 10 years. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I just know it was, she was on her last. I mean, the number of agents who rejected that concept is large. It's a high number.
We're probably all kicking themselves now.
Oh, right. I know. And what I mean,
it's hard to believe it has been over 20 years since that came out.
I know.
And it is people still talking about it. I mean, like, I've got a little niece who's got into it now. And my nephew, when he was younger, who is now almost 30, was into it when he was younger. So that, and there are things, there is a cycle. Things will repeat sometimes too. And
those particular books are timeless.
Yeah, she has a whole new generation that's probably coming into them now. So there's a resurgence of it, and I've seen a lot of Harry Potter stuff lately. It's what made me puzzles and whatnot. People talking about
everywhere.
Well, tell us about your writing time, because what I love to always ask people, and it's always good to know, because you learn different things, and writing is a skill and a habit that you've got to learn and grow in. And you got to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So what are some things that have worked for you and what things have not?
As someone who loves to write, I struggle when writing a book. I struggle with the same overthinking and overanalyzing that many other people do.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have to schedule it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to schedule it. And even if it's 15 minutes and that's it, I don't here are some things I don't do. I don't get up at 4 a.m. And there's nothing wrong with getting up at 4 a.m.
Right.
No one will want to read anything that I write at 4 a.m. It will not be coherent. And I don't hold myself to 3 hours a day or,
right.
Sometimes I hold myself to word count, but more often than not, I hold myself to a time because for me, you're absolutely right. It's about what works for each individual person. And what works for me is to force myself into the chair and just start writing. And then inevitably, like some days, nothing's happening and I do my 10 minutes and I'm done. Other days, an hour later, I'm still going.
Right.
So for me, that's the push that I need is just start. It's like, I heard this the other day. I posted something. The water won't come out if you don't turn on the faucet.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, you got to prime that well, but you're setting intention. And that's something that I tell all my clients is if you are setting an intention to write, whether and it's 2 days a week, 4 days a week, once a week, whatever works for you, set the intention, because if you don't set the intention, then it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
If you're waiting for the muse to get you and you finish,
she ain't coming.
No. The muse because muse will find something else. Oh, look, that's on Netflix. Let's watch that.
Right.
Oh, my friends want to go here. Let's go do that.
Yep.
And the muse will just die away. You've got to be intentional about that. And that's if you're serious about it. Now, if you just want to play it writing, that's your prerogative and that's your
absolutely. But don't get be aware of that choice when it's 10 months later and somebody else in your writing group has finished their manuscript and you're only 5,000 words in. Just remember that. And also celebrate that you're at least 5,000 words in. You're not 30 words in. So I think we get really hard on ourselves.
I love that word celebrate. Celebrate the small wins because writing is a long journey. And you need to celebrate those wins along the way. Hey, I made it through chapter 1. Hey, I'm through chapter 5. Hey, I'm through chapter 6.
Absolutely.
Hey, I finished my outlines, whatever.
Whatever. I sat down today and I wrote for 30 seconds.
Exactly. Well, what words of advice or encouragement do you have for writers who are struggling with this book launch concept some people are terrified about it. Some people are just, I don't know what to do. What advice or encouragement do you have for them?
If you're not sure what to do, find a program, right? Find someone, like I have a program, other people have a program where you can follow the actual steps. So you're not out Googling every day going, how do I do this? And getting 35 results back and trying to sift through which ones and thinking, well, I'll do this when I figure out which one of these is right? Get a program that lets you go step by step by step by step by step. The more important that's just execution, right? The emotional side of it is different because we have all these different fears when it comes to launching. So what I encourage is I promise there is one person out there who desperately needs to either be entertained by your story if you write fiction or who needs to hear your perspective of your experience because that's a missing piece for them.
Right.
And so if you hold that and you refuse to launch it because you're so afraid of, we could go on and on and on and on. You're actually keeping that from some, and people aren't like that. Like if you ask somebody, if you could help somebody out, would you? Yes. So get out there and do it. Right. And I think that's just a hurdle that honestly every author has to get over sometimes more than once.
Yeah. So what is it, while I'm asking you this question, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. Elizabeth is a great resource here, but what is your program that you have to help people with launching? What's it called?
It's called From Manuscript to Market. And it's a 12-day launch. The same process I use. It's the same process all my clients use, or most of my clients use. 12 days.
And what is that link? I can put it in the comments.
It is publishaprofitablebook.com. Do you want me to just type it in the thing?
Publish.
Because I mean, heaven forbid that I make this easy, because I didn't. So get ready.
Profitable book.
Profitablebook.com/from manuscript to market. Now you understand why I was trying to change this right before.
Yes. Yes.
So,
we'll have to figure out a way to do that for you.
Yes, I'm working on it. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's everything's you got it.
Yeah,
you got it. Oh, publish a profitable book.
Okay. Let's try
Yeah.
that. I'll fix it afterwards.
Yeah, and everything. There's a link from the homepage on Publish a Profitable Book, so people can get to it from there as well. But
okay, publish a profitable book.com. All right, so go here.
Yes.
And you can get to.
If you scroll down, you'll see. You'll see
manuscript to market. Yes. But we'll figure out how to make you a short link for that.
Yes.
But I'm so glad you came. Is there
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we pop off of here?
No, just get those books written, published, and launched. Let's go.
Definitely.
I want to read them.
Exactly. Now, if you're on the other end of the spectrum and you're not even sure where to start your book yet, I have something called 6 Steps to Start to Organize Your Ideas and Start Your Book Now. Another long name. But mine is therightcoach.biz/6 steps. So it's a little easier.
That is a little, yes.
To get to. But what it does is each step is broken down into 15 to 30-minute exercise. It is a question you answer, and it'll get your book started. And so in less than 2 hours, you can have the outline done for your entire book and your first chapter written. So if you are on the other end of the spectrum, like I said, and you're wondering where in the world to start your book, that's where I can help you with that. And that's why Elizabeth and I are a great complement to each other. I can help you on the writing. She can help you on the publishing and launching. And we are here for you. And if you have any questions and you're watching the replay, post in the comments and we will see. And if it's something I think Elizabeth needs, I'll make sure I tag her so she sees it. And ask away. We want to hear, we're here. We want to help you. So thank you for being here, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.